RMF was a movement that was started at UCT, rooted in the politics of Black consciousness, Pan-Africanism, and feminism, with the aim of decolonizing the university, ultimately seeing Rhodes fall. On the 9th of April 2015, the statue of Cecil John Rhodes was removed after weeks of occupation, protests, and engagement with the university's admin. But 10 years later, if we really ask ourselves, did Rhodes truly fall? I think it might be hard for us to come to a general consensus. Even so, we can't deny the great impact that Rhodes must fall, its younger sibling Fees must fall, and the general cultivation of fallism, what that impact had on the country and many movements internationally. I think it made a big, big splash, and we really started something. We revived conversations, started new conversations as well. And in this conversation, we aim to highlight the contributions of queer, trans, workers, and women's activism in movement spaces, not just this movement, but also movements past, even when history books choose to omit the names of those most marginalized, but those who contribute greatly with their labor, with their thoughts, and with their leadership. This afternoon, we're here to listen to Mam Nozi, Carbon, Auntie Pat, and Mase. And we're here to explore the pursuit of repair, reckoning, and restorative justice in the aftermath of the movement that shut down the Rainbow Nation. Yeah. So before we start our conversation, what we're going to do is just watch a video. It's about 17 minutes long. This video is brought to you by the RMF Feminist Collective. Don't worry, if you don't know what that is, you will know soon. And the video might bring up a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts, a lot of complex feelings. So let's just take care of each other and ourselves in the space. And then also after the video, we're also just going to take a moment of silence to let it settle before we jump in. Okay?
We all agree in this movement we are radical. Or we all agree that in this movement we are unapologetic. If people really took that seriously, my feeling of wanting, if I wake up tomorrow morning and I want everyone out of this building, it doesn't matter if yesterday there were other people in this building. Don't talk to me about being consistent. It's a movement. We get to fucking be radical and do whatever the fuck we want. That's why we're here. I understand leadership. I understand respecting certain parameters. But don't come in here and disregard someone's experience. Don't silence the voice of someone. Don't tell someone how they must feel about what just happened to them and how they must react. You're being a fucking white person. You're being fucking patriarchy. You're being fucking white oppression, and it's not fair. This is the only place I get to actually be irrational about the fact that I feel oppressed. I get to actually pop off. That's the whole reason we're here. Not to be rational, not to negotiate our pain. Why would we do that? Then we'd be at school still. We'd be writing open letters and putting them on blogs and shit. Basics, but that's not what we're doing. So I really take issue, and we need to sit down and we need to call comrade to order.
Yes, in another direction. Yes! Come on!
the university can rehabilitate itself. Yes. It's a symbol for this institution saying that it takes transformation seriously and is demanded for by students. We are not willing to listen to management on this front. It's been 20 years. We should have been discussing the removal of the Cecil John Road statue 20 years ago.
Solidarity with the students, the student movements, with workers' movements, with everybody, to say that Kwanele. Kwanele. Phezugogo Magawe. Viva the student movement of UCT, viva! Viva! Viva Black Solidarity, viva! Viva! Viva Black Academics, viva! Viva! Siyayifuna UCT.
I'm here because I feel like there was a calling for me to be here. I'm here because I do not only want to be a teacher, but because I want to learn. And I feel like this is a great learning environment. And I'm here to grow myself as a person, to learn to understand other people better, to learn to understand my Blackness and what it entails, and to learn self-love, because that's not something that they teach you as a Black female or a Black person in systems, oppressive systems such as these. And I feel like this is the one space where, in confronting my demons and in confronting all of the things that are meant to hinder me, I am learning to reconstruct the idea of myself, the idea of Blackness, and learning to love that idea. And not just as an idea, but as a being.
So first, what is it like living in a Zanya house? It's tough, but it's also just a beautiful space. It's tough sleeping on the floor. It's tough waking up and trying to figure out where am I going to shower, what am I going to eat. That part of a Zanya house is tough, but a Zanya house is also really beautiful. A Zanya house for me is a very spiritual place. In fact, I really, really wish that post this Zanya house will become a residence, where one day my child will be able to come here and be like, yo, my mother was a part of this movement that made Azania House a real thing. And the reason that I feel so strongly and I speak of Azania with such passion is because it is a space for Black love. It is a space that I've never seen before. In the system that we live in, we are told that Black spaces and Black people and our people essentially are bad, they're dangerous, they're thieves and whatever. But in Azania House, I have found Black love. I have seen people who have not known each other, do not know each other from a bar of soap, here every day, engaging, loving each other, protecting each other, saying that I have your back, regardless of who you are and where you come from. Just by virtue of your Blackness, I've got you. And also, Azania House is such a great space where we can engage in conscious discourse. And these are things that I cannot actually have in my everyday life. Outside the Azania House, I don't know who else has these conversations, but conversations on Black consciousness, and conversations on intersectionality and feminism and feminist discourses. I am here every day, and I'm just constantly speaking, or at least engaged in the works of Mam Nozi, of Biko, of Fanon, of Kwame Nkrumah, of Malcolm X. This is a space where we can engage on who we are as a people and be fine with it. This is a space of angry Black people who are saying enough is enough, and we're tired. So I'm a tired Black woman. I'm an angry Black woman, and I cannot continue to live like this. I do not want my sister to have to live like this. The next generation should surely live in a better space where their lives matter, where everything about them as a woman as well, where you are not constantly suppressed by patriarchy. So I am here because the world needs change. It's been like this for too long and something needs to give. And I'm hoping that this will have a ripple effect across the world of just, we're tired and we want to be recognized as a human, essentially. So that's why I'm here.
You are not supposed to be the radicals. The radicals are supposed to be the incomprehensible, poor, unknown, unwashed masses. Understand that when you get met with violence, it is because you know what you know. It is because you refuse to be safe. It is because you know too much. It is because you really, in the heart of UCT, can change empire. It is because you are bringing roads down.
That as a black trans woman, like, can I really join the narrative or the discourse as it is? Because otherwise I feel like I can't add anything. Like, it's almost silencing.
There have never been radical black movements without trans black people, without black women. How do you participate in this movement? How do you contribute to this movement? It's your movement. Yes. You're not contributing this movement. There is no movement without you. Yes.
So yes, my experience here has been very empowering. It's nice to know that if black students come into a space like this and start talking, that we're going to be discussing issues of patriarchy, black patriarchy, issues of annihilation in the broader sense. So I would say that when it was stated that the movement is more than just the statue, that's when I got okay, we have to do this again. Like the mandate says, we're taking an intersectional approach, meaning that everyone who's part of this space should feel liberated completely.
We're asking people to check their privilege, and we're asking you to be careful what you say in this space. And we're not asking you for dictating the way forward, but we're asking for engagement. But engagement, that when you engage in the space, you must be aware of your privilege and the amount of privilege that you bring into the space.
You speak about maybe how you navigated that in spaces where you say you're a black feminist, and all of a sudden people feel like that is some sort of threat in black liberation.
It's very hard. It is very hard to do that, and you are seen as betraying the movement. You are seen betraying the mandate. You are seen as a white apologist, or you are seen as, they call me, the lapdog of white supremacy.
What does heterosexual males acknowledging basically female people look like? Because I've never seen it.
Your question is so important. Like, what does that acknowledgement of that pain look like? Because, like, I don't know it as well. And so if a black man would answer that, that would be healing to me and to you, because I really don't know it.
It's so deep and it scares terribly. But I think maybe the first step, like everybody has said, is to listen. Is to listen and to identify that it's a problem, because I think what I've noticed in myself and amongst my friends is that this has never been posed as a problem to me. This is the first time this has been posed to me as a problem, and I have to listen to understand the problem. I like try to defend it because one, I can't understand it, and I must acknowledge that and find ways on how to deconstruct that mindset in itself and to rebuild a new man, in brief.
You cannot love blackness and invest in patriarchy. Black revolutionaries throughout the African world tell us over and over and over again that given the onslaught of people of Africa, Asia, and the Americas of the last 600 years, to love blackness is revolutionary. It is hard work, but it is worthwhile work. You are worth defending.
I find myself learning new things every day, all the time. There's always meetings going on, and every meeting is fruitful, every meeting is educational. And I've been in a process of discovery and rediscovery for 2 weeks now. Every single day I'm learning something new, so I'm really grateful for that. If nothing else, I feel that I have become a more aware person, a more educated person, and I would even go as far as to say in the past 2 weeks I've learned more about life than I have through formal education.
This is about reimagining the African University in South Africa now, and how that can speak back to general issues around higher education in this continent. Given everything that's going on, globalization, the commercialization of knowledge, etc., and all the other kinds of politics that we have to engage with every day around this university.
It doesn't matter what you dress, what you wear. Sexism is made to be your problem. Just like racism. You want the problem. You are not ready to govern. You're not ready to teach. It takes 20 years to make. Do you know this?
Where were you in high school?
So 3 black men love freedom. Freedom for others and freedom for themselves.
Yes.
Black men love queerness. Violence. Against other men. 3 black men love black culture, but not patriarchy, right? And 3 black men love feminist women. And queer black women and queer black men are part of this broad front, and we love them. We love a broad front of black men, black women, white women, queer, straight, poor, rich. We must create a broad front if we're going to transform UCT.
You heard it for yourselves. You heard it coming live from Azania House.
They will try to kill you. I only mean metaphorically.
Sure. Yeah. Let's just take a few seconds. Let that settle in. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we just want to hear from y'all before we start our spiel. Start telling you our stories. Does anyone want to share any reflections from the video, from that time? Even if it's also just one word, just to be like, that made me feel angry or happy, you know? Yes.
Hi there. My name is Kopano. Sorry. I had an incredibly emotional response to that. And I didn't expect that. I watched the live stream of the previous conversation that the Rose Must Fall Feminist Collective organized, and I've seen it before. So that was quite something, and I just want to say thank you for what y'all are doing. But I want to say a really special thank you to Mase. I can't tell you what it meant to be in that movement alongside you and see everything that you carried and that you still carry with such amazing grace. It's incredible. Thank you for the tissue I needed. But you carry yourself with an incredible amount of grace and strength. I am someone that feels like you have carried me in ways that I don't know if you're aware of, but I just wanted to make you aware. I'm so grateful for the work that you do and the work that all of you are doing, and I'm just so grateful that we get to look back at that moment and feel these painful emotions, which are also important, because so often we flatten these kinds of movements to their results. We call them failed movements, but we're not failed people. We are who we are because of what we went through together and what you carried, what many people carried us through in that moment. So just deep gratitude. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I definitely feel that where there's pain, there's joy in remembering, and it's sometimes very difficult, while also being very affirming to see that kind of video. Does anyone else want to contribute? Yes. This one at the back there.
I just want to say that I am a black man that was adopted into a white family. And watching that was really, like, I'm trying to just, like, stay cool now. But, like, it was really hard for me, and I just want to say thank you, you guys. Thank you very much.
We definitely hear the pain in that, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for sharing that experience and your gratitude. Yes.
Thank you very much. Whoa. I'm just so much aware of the pain that lingers, the wound that festers. My name is Noluthando Mqadi. I was with the negotiations to sign that agreement. And I remember the space, I remember the energy. And I'm grateful for you, Chair, to have given a moment of silence, because we do have to do that. At moments like these, we need to reflect deeply as to what it means to be in that space. I just want to say to the people who have shared and the pain that has been also just revealed in this moment, that it is real and we should take caution. And sometimes I wonder what it will take for this country, for the university, for everyone concerned, to make sure that those students are given the balm that they need in order to heal going forward. Thank you.
I mean, this is my second time watching it, and I think it still makes me very emotional. I think it also just reminded me today just how much we learned during that time. And I think the first time was very emotional, but even watching now, and I heard someone talk about die, I was like, it makes me very happy to all see that we're still here. And in many ways, we may still be broken, and things that we need to heal through. But we almost really did die. And I'm just glad to see all of you still here and us still doing the work. And yeah, thank you so much.
We're just going to take another moment before we come back to the panel and kind of let what has shared kind of sit, and let's hold that for a few seconds. Okay, I think we can start off on the panel. And I'd just like each of you to share your own reflections, either from the video or from that time itself. Do you want to start us off, Carmen?
Okay, I can start us off. Yeah, sanibonani everyone, molweni, hi. It's a lot. This is the first time I'm actually watching this video, and there's a fondness with which I reflect back on that time, but there's a deep chasm of pain. I often wonder, was Rhodes Must Fall a movement or a campaign? And I make that distinction because where is Rhodes Must Fall right now? Can I call upon and revive the masses if we need to shut down the university tomorrow or on Monday? Is there a Rhodes Must Fall to call upon? And why it matters so much to me to figure out is a movement or a campaign is because I still need Rhodes Must Fall. I'm not going to talk for anyone. I need Rhodes Must Fall. And if it's a campaign, campaigns begin and they end. But if it's a movement, it's okay. Like a volcano, movements can be dormant, but they can revive themselves when needed. And my God, I'm hoping we still have it in us. We're just dormant, waiting for the next eruption. Because I need you guys. I need you. And I'm hoping there is a Rhodes Must Fall that can exist in that way, like we saw in the video. I hope it's still there.
Auntie Pat?
Wow. Yeah. We were there, believe it or not. I was there. I was just so grateful for the opportunity to be in this space. It was very educational, being so close to my fellow comrades. I gave myself the opportunity to hear people's pain, to actually experience their pain. And I think for me, it changed my whole mindset, because being a person of a mixed race, we were very protected. And so we are kind of programmed in a way, if it doesn't touch you or you're not affected, then it's okay, mind your own business. But being in that space taught me how much pain there is still, how much inequality there is still, and we are subjected to, and people just need to be silenced. And so what we saw there on that video costed a lot of us that spoke out, and we're still paying the price. We lost a lot. So I will echo your sentiments, and I will confirm that this was not a campaign, it was a movement, and it still needs to move. There's a need for it to move, because the tree is chopped down, but the tree is not taken out by the roots yet, and hence we still need to move.
Kunzima uthetha. Ndibindekile. It was not easy for the parents. Sibona abantwana bethu bebanjwa, bebethwa. Sikhona. Asazi nangoku bangubani onosenzela le nto nasenzela yona. Siyagula. Sinezigulo. Ngenxa yempatho yomsebenzi. Guys, I'm a worker at UCT, a cleaner. Kodwa umsebenzi owenziwa ngabantwana movement yandenza ndaneqhayiya ngabo. Kwakubuhlungu. Simele sithule sithi cwaka. Kule pamphlet iphethe yesandleni ithetha ukubulaleka kwethu as a black workers at UCT. Siqinezelwa. Sisaqinezelwa nangoku. Akho tshintsho. Idaba eninulileyo bantwana nincedisa thina. Andikwazi uliyeka noba sendisilwa ndindedwa, ngoba kusekhona okungatshintshanga e-UCT. Kukhona ukucinezeleka kwabasebenzi. Kukhona ukuhlukunyezwa kwabasebenzi. Kukhona ukubulaleka kwabasebenzi e-UCT. Umsebenzi obhinqileyo e-UCT Omnyama akanalungelo, akana voice, akana phakamisando. Ngoba umnyama akanabango e-UCT. Sesikhona izinto ezithi unelungelo loyenza into ethile. Kodwa kubakho ixesha uvala umlomo. Sivalwe imilomo. Sagqibela ngexesha likaFizi Masifolo noRhodes Masifolo uthetha sithethe phandle. Ngoku awuva nosebesebe womsebenzi. Abuze uba kwenzeka ntoni na kuthuleka kuthe cwaka. Siyaphela siyafa. Bantwana siyafa e-UCT siyaphela. Impilo yethu ixikixekile. Nasisiya. Nenzile imigama emane enawenzayo. Omnye umuntu xa ejonga abone into yenziwa nina acinga uba abelungu babethanda. Express babethanda bayenza ngokuthanda kwabo. Hayi zange bathande. Kodwa ngenxa yoxinzelelo esasilifake phezu kwabo, ngenxa yoxinzelelo esasilenza nabantwana, yayenza into yoba impilo okomzuzwana kancinci yatshintsha kumsebenzi eyunivesithi. Ngoba ilizwi lethu lalisithi the boss must go, kushiyeka abasebenzi. I-management must go, kushiyeka umsebenzi. Kodwa kuyo yonke loo nto nashiya nahamba naphuma abantwana, navalwa imilomo. Kwathiwa yohlukanani nabasebenzi ngoba that unit naniyenze nabasebenzi yiyo eyabeka the victory e-university yoba senze okulungileyo. Kodwa kubekho abantu abangazange bonwabe imisebenzi yenu. Ndiyakhumbula abantwana besuka esitatyweni ku-Rhodes besehla bebheke eBremna. Ndajoyina njenglo mama, ndajoyina ngoba ndathi nale nto ikule pamphlet iphetheyo for years before 2015. Oko sasikhala kungekho mntu sisabelayo. Siyoma phambi kweBremna siphethe imemorandum ifundwe nje kungabikho mpendulo. Kodwa ndathi ndawulandela abantwana ngelanga besiya eBremna kwindlela esuka ku-Rhodes. Ndahamba nabantwana xa besithi befika kule ndlela iya eBremna kwavela umuntu omhlophe wavunguzelisa le nto yenziwa ngabantwana. Ndababona umsindo wabantwana uyenyuka ndathi mani asizufika apho siyayo. Uba nizakulwa asizufika. Ngoba ndandiyitsho le nto ngoba kwakukho into apha kum ethi lixesha, this is the time yobana ndifumane impendulo kwizinto endandiziphakamise e-UCT. Safika sema phambi kweBremna. Ndikhumbula umuntu oyephaya imanagement uPileyi nabanye no-DVC. Ilanga lalitshisa uba wawungekho apho, lalitshisa ilanga. Bathi abantwana mabeza belungu. Ndikhona phakathi kwabo bantwana. Kwaye kusithiwa uPileyi uyagula unenhliziyo. Kwabizwa i-umbrella ndathi no. Umbrella mayihambe ngoba lo tata akazuyiphendula into mna endiphetheyo. Akazuniphendula abantwana besikolo uba sizawuthi hayi makanikwe i-umbrella ngoba engaphilanga. Thina sesifile kakade. Kodwa ngoba sizoma phambi kweBremna sifuna uncedwa. Yaqala into uba wawungayazi, yaqala olo hlobo eyunivesithi. Kwakunzima kwangekuhlanga abantwana bengalali, singalali sincama imizi yethu. Abethu uwani useyunivesithi, uwani wasebusuku. Kodwa ngenxa yabantwana baphinde bathatha imoto zabo bosibeke emakhaya. Sivuke ekuseni sikusokuloku kuse-UCT sithi sisayithethe sithethayo. Namhlanje besisithi bantwana kuhle enakwenzayo ngoba nasinikezela zabakhona into ezasayinwayo. Zasayinwa kodwa singoneliseki thina singabasebenzi. Ndikhumbula sikwigumbi apho abantwana besikolo bebefuna ukwazi into yobana ingaba le ngxelo isayiniweyo iyanonelisa nabazali. Babelile abantwana ngeziphumo ezisayiniweyo ngabantu ababesayinela abasebenzi. besayina bengathathanga imandate kubasebenzi bavele bohlala nemanagement be-UCT basayina. Namhlanje ubungafika e-UCT kukho ushiyashiyano ngokwezimali. Wena muntu uphaya ezantsi kuthiwa uyiklina uyabulaleka. Awufiki kwindawo ofuna ufika kuyo ngoba sasithe wonke umuntu e-UCT makulinganwe. Abantu abasixoxelayo namhlanje bafika bamise ezabo imfuno. Imibutho eyasixoxelayo yafika yamisa ezabo izidingo. Namhlanje sisakhale e-UCT akuphela ukukhala kubasebenzi. Siyabhubha, siyafa. Sifa spiritually, sifa enyameni, siyabhubha. Siyaphuma e-university kulini ba hamba kuzothi cwaka. Banibalela iminyaka kuthiwa ushekele iminyaka uphume kuthi cwaka e-UCT ngoba ndisathetha ndisayenza ingxolo noba ndindedwa. Ndiyababulela ndibulela lecturers ezincedisayo kukhala kwami kuba ndisakhala ngaphakathi e-university. Kodwa umsebenzi wenu umgcane emizila enawushiyayo abantwana. Sasithi thina sizawuvuya kube mande e-UCT. Savuya umzuzwana kodwa nathi shwaka nemka naphuma navala imilomo. Abanye babanjwa, abanye babasezele, abanye asibazi baphelela phi benibuza ba ingaba nonke nabantwana ababekhona ku-Rhodes Must Fall and Fees Must Fall. Ingaba nonke ninento na elungileyo enayifumana xa niphume e-UCT ngoba umsebenzi enawenzela thina zange siyonikhangela into bana nonwabile na okanye ninezivubeko nisanila na njengathi njengoba thina silila. Kwathiwa hayi basekhona abanye basafuna uyiqhuba le ndlela ka-Rhodes Must Fall no Fees Must Fall njengoba nisibona silapha. Ndiyanqwena abantwana baka-Rhodes Must Fall no Fees Must Fall. Ke kubekho abantu abathatha indlela ebuyela back e-university. Ke kuyogujululwa kujonga into yobana ingaba abasebenzi zafikelela zahoyona iimfuno zabasebenzi. Namhlanje sithetha sinento singazaziyo ezimfihlo. Ndikhumbula nisekhona e-university sasiwazi umrholo kaMax Price. Nisixelela uMax Price upeya so much. uMax Price unemali athile ayifumanayo, unebonus ayithi. Namhlanje kuthiwa cwaka ingathi akho mntu, ingathi kusemadlakeni kusemangcwabeni wonke umuntu ufile akuthethwa nto. Imali esifumanayo mna andikwazi nobhatalela umntanam e-university. Imali baba nditye qha. Ndiphangele anawuthenga into endinqwenelayo ngenhliziyo yami njengomuntu ophangele e-university. Ngoba kukho ucinezelo, siyabulaleka. Bangatshintsha VC kungene omnyama kungene omhlophe, i-university i-UCT ayikatshintshi. Ingcinezelo isekhona. Kubasebenzi nakubantwana besikolo andazi bathule kodwa uyabona into bana abonwabanga bayoyika. Isibindi nani naso sasikhulula thina abantwana besikolo. Sasikhulula thina singabasebenzi. Ewe kukhona ubunzima nangoku kodwa ndinethemba ukhona osezawuphakama noba uvela phi na aphinde ayoyibuza into bana u-Fees Must Fall no-Rhodes Must Fall waphela phi na i-university yamandawoni na. Ngoba ngoku izinto ziyabhalwa phantsi asifumani thina uba kubhalwa kugqitywe entweni nangathi. Ndibuhlungu ndonakele nje mantle kule ndawo. Ndonakele gqithi. Ndibuhlungu. Omnye umuntu ongayaziyo into esenzeka e-UCT ngamaqalela wabona apha kodwa ayigqibelelanga. Ngoba abantwana babebethwa betyatyulelwa thina. Sime singabazali sithi akuzukwenzeka oko. Ndikhumbula kwakunemeeting ye-management. Abantwana i-UCT ingafuna ubamamela ingabamameli tu. Ndaphakamisa isandla ndabacela oMax Price neqela lakhe ndathi just listen. Indlebele ibalekile umvuba umuntu ufuna uthini. Sumcingeli ba uze ngobundlobongela okanye uza kususa esikhundeni sakho okanye ufuna iposition yakho okanye uzawutshabalalisa i-university. I-university imile e-UCT kodwa ayipheli ingcinezelo e-UCT. akukhathaliseki noba kungafika bani ingcinezelo isekhona indlela eyakhiwa ngayo ingcinezelo e-UCT ayisoze isuke yokhelwe futhi yokhela phansi kwethu thina abantu abamnyama abasebenzi bona ubuza into yobana ungathi awugqiba iklina ucinga uba fanele uba ungafuna i-10,000 endandiyifuna ngalo nyaka ndingawaziyo ndisabamba yona ngoku babekhala abantwana besithi zange sithi sifuna le nto for oomama bethu for abazali bethu kunzima eyunivesithi kodwa sinyamezele silimele thina sinezigulo ezinganyangekiyo kodwa ndizixelele I will die ndisathetha eyunivesithi andikhathani noba ndithetha ndedwa zingafika zona izinto zifike ngaphandle iyunivesithi iqasha abantu ithi izani ayisebenza silungiselelwa nto nofikileyo wenza le ayenzayo elingene ipokotho yakhe athathe laa mali eyunivesithi aphume ngomnyango kuyanikezelwa nakha ngemali akuhoywanga ukubulalekwa kwethu siyaphela singabasebenzi kuthiwa iyunivesithi ayinamali kodwa ingenisa ii-companies ngoku esasithe no more outsourcing at-UCT ungaya ngoku ufike ziikhampani ngeekhampani ezenza umsebenzi wethu oxuthwe kuthi ezandleni ngoba ndiyabuza lo msebenzi into wenzayo ungaka ufanele le mali kwasuke kwaqasha ikhampani uba mayizokoxutha lo msebenzi wam izobhatalwa imali xa ningenamali bendiwenza why ningandiniki laa mali nishera nomnye umntu ninika omnye umntu umrholo wam akekho umntu onoyenza loo nto ngoba sisengxakini abantu abathembakalanga unions azithembakalanga kuthulekile UCT ngathi akho unions into ayisebenzela thina ye-UCT Workers Forum yavala umlomo ubungakhangele UCT ayikho abasebenzi abanawudibana bathethe ngengxaki zabo ezibatyayo kwapheliswa yonke loo nto ipheliswa imibutho esithi thina siyivote siyijoyinile into yobana isimele kunzima e-UCT nawo amanye amazwi qha ndonakele kha ndiyazi banzaba njena
What's not working? What didn't get finished? What's missing? And where to from here? Because the struggles that were then there, that we fought against, Mama has clearly stated that they are there now, still. Mase?
I don't even know. I just want to say I was having such a good day before this. I was sitting here and stewing, and I was like, yeah, having such a good day, you know. It is incredibly hard to be sitting here with Mam Nozi and Auntie Patricia in particular. And I say this because I think you know, the idea of 10 years of having to sit down and reflect on sometimes what felt like a moment, other times like a lifetime. Often feels like a very routine exercise. Like, sit down, let's just talk, let's just see. Oh, it's been 10 years. And I think this has been the engagement with a lot of us. It's been 10 years. Oh my goodness, the last time I saw you was 10 years, or or even reminiscing about particular moments from 10 years ago. But the actual work of reflecting and reckoning with 10 years has been a very difficult one, I think. Because I think the reflection has required some of us to sit with very hard questions about the work, the why, the and then, right? And one of I think the big things that comes out of this reflection is having to sit with what one of our good comrades as part of the collective Duty calls the cost of the fall. What has been the cost of this, the fall? And what has it meant for all of us in different points, And I think that the very real thing is the idea and dealing with the reckoning that part of the conversation is that we can all be here and Mam Nozi can say to us, it's 10 years later and here's this. And I know I can attest to Mam Nozi saying that this pamphlet, for example, was developed years before 2015. I remember seeing it as far as 2012 to 2013. And so when those moments of victory, which I think are very, I'm trying to figure out how to kind of engage with what the movement is and what it was, and dealing with the different contradictions and shortcomings without actually completely negating its power, which I think is a very difficult place to sit in. And so then, what happened? Post that signing, October 21st, when, that insourcing announcement was made. And I think so many of us felt like, finally, I remember speaking to Auntie Pat that day, and that agreement almost didn't go through. There were some shiggy-shiggies that were happening, and Mam Nozi is telling the absolute truth. Not that her version needs to be questioned at all, but the levels at which the sabotage, the renegotiating, the very selective way that power negotiates with itself and others, right? Where you sit for hours and hours and reach an agreement, and all of a sudden the university can come to you and say, actually, there's another party that happens to say they represent a bigger mass than you, right? And so we were dealing with a lot of that, and coming to that moment where the insourcing announcement came in, I think so many of us just felt like, sure, this was not the plan, by the way. I didn't think that. I don't want to cry today, but here we are. I think so many of us felt, for me, that I remember that moment as one of the moments I think demonstrated something about collective organizing and power and community. And it's a moment of power for me, but it's also like a bit of a pitfall for a number of reasons. Because I think it's that feeling of having other people to organize and build community with, and then for the nature of a movement itself, which is very hard. And by the way, maybe let me just go back and say this video that was here, it's a little bit mind-boggling to think that all of that was basically in the first 2 weeks of the movement, right? Hey, I wish I wonder if we the movement was a reality show, and we got to see all of it. I mean, some of us did get to see all of it, and I can tell you that it was mostly unsexy. And so, because of the nature of the way that movements evolve, so many of us are hit with a deep sense of fatigue, or we pay some type of cost, and the cost is exhaustion. The cost is losing lives because we've lost so many comrades, you know. I was looking at this video and I saw so many folks that, you know, are not even, who've since like transitioned, you know. I'm just seeing Keenan Hendricks in there, Sbongiseni, who was a comrade of ours who was a victim of gun violence just a few months ago. And so many other people who just, all of us didn't make it in some way. You know, so how do we have that conversation, but in ways, that allows us to celebrate the work? Because I think it's hard to say for me for 10 years, and I'm going to keep quiet, because I think we all kind of unravel because of the emotions. It's hard. It has been hard for me for 10 years to even claim this movement in some way, to talk about it, to even recognize its, you know, its power, because it is powerful, it was powerful. In my opinion, it still lives in some way, shape, or form, you know, both as a movement and I think as like political praxis, as theory. And hopefully other versions of Carbon will call us forward to come and support them, and Noluthando's and Ona, who is here in front, who, you know, we can show up in that way to say, you know, there has to be legacies that we can kind of like support forward, right? And so my point is 10 years reflection, reckoning has been the hard part of the truth as well, has been the joys, and saying RMF was deeply affirming at times, sometimes very destructive, and other times it shows us the meaning of solidarity of community. And then there's also the part about the wound of 10 years that is both individual and collective. I hope some way, somehow, you know, we can all find a place of settle, because I don't know if there's a place of healing, which it feels like it doesn't exist, you know, but maybe there's a place of settle and soft landing. And I want to stop crying. Thinking.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. What you said about, you know, iterating what Carbon said about maybe the movement can, maybe someone will hear the call, maybe, you know, we can do more. I also deeply resonate with that, where I'm like, we were all there, and especially in that one shot where everyone was like walking through that tunnel. And there's so many people.
It's a powerful image. I think about it all the time. It's just so powerful.
There's so many people there. And at the height of the movement, there were so many people, especially in Fees Must Fall in October. And that momentum and that power we had as like people, where is it? Because it exists. We saw it happening. And we can do it again. But how, you know? Every one of us has, you know, stomach politics. We gotta go to work, we gotta come back, you know, we gotta eat, we gotta take care of our children, and it's this thing where we're being put on this hamster wheel over and over again. Another thing that resonated with me is just the idea that was just 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? And hearing the audience being like, shoo, you know, for those that didn't know or weren't involved or didn't visit the occupation or join in on the occupation, to just be like, yo, so much happened. And there were so many conversations, so many things being said, so much to learn. Auntie Patricia? When we had a conversation, I think you also mentioned how that was important for you, the being in that space and learning, and like you mentioned now, taking on other people's perspective, given the past. But I also know even before the movement, you were doing that through unions, through advocating for workers. And I just want to hear your thoughts about you know, that time before and now in the aftermath, having gone through the movement?
It breaks my heart to hear, so I didn't understand 100%, but I caught a lot of what Mam Nozi has said that is still at UCT. And for me, it is, you know, at the time even, if Rhodes Must Fall didn't happen, then insourcing wasn't going to be, it wasn't going to happen. And so we are grateful for the support, because at UCT the culture is like, you don't speak up. Inequality was so rife. I mean, we as a union, with my union hat on, is that the conversation about insourcing happened for so long. I mean, we've sat around round tables and fought for it. And that 30 years later, it took the language of action to still realize that. And that is surprising, and it just showed that at the end of the day, I mean, we spoke about, did we fail? You know, I always hear this question. We didn't succeed, and, you know, but we didn't fail. Something happened, but we were derailed, as usual, because this is the colonizers' language. You know, they derail you. So this is what we got to this point now. So now it's the height of what we're demanding, and we have to still use the language of action, and then we'll give you a little bit. And so we've heard what Mam Nozi said. So although we did insourcing, and insourcing happened at UCT, but did we bring inequality? Did that happen? So it was a tick box. It was, okay, so you're asking for this to be happening. And I mean, I just had a conversation with Mam Nozi a few minutes before we started, and I was like, pay classes. And she was like, yes, we have pay class 1 and 2. I'm like, no, but we're not supposed to be started at 3. So it's the inequality is just so rife still at the university. We know a cleaner isn't expected to be paid what the professor is being paid, but it's the gap. You know, the gap is so big, and that is what that we were negotiating, and that's what we fought for. You know, narrow the gap in that way. And yeah, I'm very sad at what Mam Nozi is saying 10 years later. I'm gone 8 years, so yeah, it's and so there again the situation is in. So where does this happen? Because, you know, we know what happened in 10 years ago when violence was happening. People had a lot to say. I mean, RMF was like shunned down. People had different opinions about how we were doing it. But me being inside, it was the only language that was heard and listened to. If we didn't speak that language, nobody was going to listen to it. And I was part of that decent conversations around the tables. But we never saw change. So how do we bring about change without speaking the language of action? I mean, that's something that we really need to, you know, Patricia, really. It's a hard conversation to have, strategize. And I think we need to do that because at the end of the day, we given bits and pieces just to shut up. And then we go and we okay, it's fine. And so the strategy is still the same, guys.
Yeah. And even then, just the way that the university, and I know Mam Nozi, when we were talking as well, the university uses bureaucracy and red tape to kind of shut it down. So it's the small victories, it's the bureaucracy, it's no, I'm not the person, go to this person. And that person be like, no, I'm not the person, go to this person. And then you get the runaround and the runaround and the runaround. And at some point you get tired, you know.
But the university is relying.
And
it's relying on the tired. The university is relying on the fact that being a student is, by definition, a revolving door. The university either expects you, okay, if you're black, they don't actually want you to graduate. But theoretically, you will graduate.
They might not want you to graduate, but they want you out eventually.
You will burn out. But either way, being a student is a transient experience. You are not a student for your whole life. There's very few people who experience that. And so the university will either send you from pillar to post and tell you you're speaking to the wrong person, you're speaking to the wrong person, you're speaking to the wrong person, because the right person doesn't exist. Because the system itself is the problem. The right person doesn't exist because they never invented that person. The system itself is rotten. But if that doesn't work, they know you're going to leave. And people who are there for in a longer capacity, so we're talking about workers, we're talking about professors, we're talking about staff, they know you are risking your job by speaking out. So the stakes for us as a student, I am paying fees. That relationship is different to someone whose livelihood is paid by the university. And so they're relying. The university knows this. They've analyzed this, and we all see it. They are relying on the fact that the Rhodes Must Fall students eventually will graduate, or, as they wanted, we will burn out and disappear somehow. They have relied upon that, so that, as Mam Nozi is speaking, why are these elements of outsourcing returning? Because we're gone. These people mustn't play with me. I have time. If I must, I'm in Joburg now, but if I must come back, I'll come back. Don't play with me.
They're serious, guys.
Don't play with me, because you're like, it's one thing to fuck with me. It's one thing to traumatize me in the ways that they've done. But now you're gonna mess with my parents. You're gonna mess with my mom like that. You don't know me. I thought you knew me. I thought I showed you. But clearly you need round 2. Because this is not okay. And I don't, maybe there's something to be said about how I'm willing to tolerate the mistreatment to me, but there's something that cuts me so deep that a generation that survived apartheid must now come into freedom. The supposed freedom that I was supposed to know my whole life. Yes, the Rainbow Nation was a lie to me. It was a lie that was used to silence me. But I cannot fathom a generation of black people who had to live through the crime against humanity known as apartheid, to have so-called democracy, and they must still be exploited at work. That is beyond unacceptable. So, okay, if you wanna go again, let's go again.
No, we need this energy, guys. And there's
I don't know if I can just come in
yes.
here. I mean, I think Carbon is making a very important comment about, the idea of, class solidarity in this instance, but also universities are designed to actually do exactly that, right? To create like a class of us, a community of us, especially young black professionals who become so desensitized and buy into this idea of black middle classness. And we completely miss the point where, the difference between me and somebody else who has, half of us live hand to mouth, number one. Secondly, so many of us are built and come from homes where our parents, our communities, people cannot afford to get us through these systems, right? So we either get stuck in chronic cycles of debt, or we're indebted into these scholarship, the scholarship industry that also ends up being exploitative in some way. And I think eventually, for me, the big question then becomes, and Mam Nozi, I think, says something so important, that she is at a university that she cannot even afford for herself, even before her child, for herself, right? And I think that's something that all of us kind of have to marinate on. And often I know when we speak about play classes, we say, this person has qualification, this person has, but there's something also, a question of access that we need to actually look at, right? That if somebody happens to work at an institution, and I want to speak of the university as a microcosm of the bigger institution, right? If somebody works and contributes at an institution, and this institution is only accessible to some who happen to apparently, because of the distinction that we always have around a politic of body and mind, your contribution is your body, And your contribution is the mind, and so therefore we've like scaled this a little bit more important, that you're not due access, even though you might be giving a lot more of yourself physically to this institution to keep it going, and you might die sooner because of that than somebody who has to apply. And not that applying your mind is not work, it's absolute work, but I also do think that there are so many different implications to the way that we show up to spaces. And so for me, this decolonial politic of RMFs, and that all of us spoke about, is so important, not just as an association to RMF, but a bigger project, right? That my question is, how do we continue it? So an RMF continues to exist with others, like you're saying, being a student is a revolving door. But Mam Nozi is pointing out to something very important, and I think to a lot of people who said, where did you go? What happened? We came, you left. Right? And I think there's a deep question around how we build sustainability and solidarity as like a circular thing rather than this revolving door. So my solidarity is so far as I know Mam Nozi, I can resonate with Mam Nozi's story, and I'm a student at this university. And it's part of my own personal reckoning. You know, I've had so many people come to me and say, yeah, we came and you left. And not me personally, but so many of us. And of course, there's the part where me personally, I was tired, I was exhausted. The dynamic was, and I had to actually choose life at that point, because that's what I chose. I chose life because the other options was either I'm going to stay there and maybe drop dead, or even, you know, find other ways of like coping in that space. But also, how do we have this conversation as part of deepening a decolonial politic of solidarity, a feminist decolonial politic of solidarity, where care and rest can be both individual, communal, and something that allows each of us to kind of come in and out, you know? Because I think the idea of an RMF resuscitating is aspirational and it's important, but I don't know if I want to go back into an RMF that exhausted me so deeply again. You know, I would want to come into an RMF that actually holds my pain of 10 years, and that also holds Mam Nozi at the same time, and maybe allows Mam Nozi to be able to be the only, to step away from being the only person saying, I need a better life in here, right? And when she's, and not that we lose our voices, but we can actually step back and replenish and come back. And in a spirit of community, be able to do that. I don't know what that looks like, and I know one of the reasons why we came together as a collective was to kind of think, not necessarily for ourselves, but for future movements, how we use our experiences and lessons from RMF to be able to model, to build practice around a decolonial politic where solidarity is for solidarity around care, both individual and collective, is a very big thing. And we also we don't just build an awareness to the dynamics, because the dynamic wasn't just about the protest, but it's about coming into a space and somebody speaking down to me because I'm a woman, or having a comrade who says to me during a men's meeting, other men have said, I have no respect for men, I need to be taught, shown how to, you know, using very violent language, I need to be taught how to treat a man. And I have to contend with that, and these are the people that I need to organize around, right? And then there's also sitting at a table and negotiating insourcing. And then there's another student organization there who go behind us and write open letters and tell students to go back to school. We need to talk about that. Hey. Listen, but I think it's part of the 10 years, right? Because I think also there's this idea of profiting and, you know, the narrative of like fees must fall and roads must fall in particular, people who've been able to like beat their chest about their contributions, but they have done the most diabolical things to compromise this movement. And I will get there. We'll warm up. And it's part of the reckoning for me, because I refuse to have somebody who wrote a letter saying students must go back and basically almost sabotage this insourcing, right? To go back and write books and speak openly and say, I was a part of this. And that is part of what we need to go, you know, part of my personal healing, and I think a collective one as well, right? And that's what justice looks like, right? Because part of what we wanted to do is also do the work of narrative justice. This video was about not, you know, we've been saying like, look, the RMF archive is a very interesting place because the people who had the time and space to have a lens with them all the time get to tell their stories, right? And we also know that, like, you know, mainstream media is a part of that. But what can we do about it 10 years later? That Mam Nozi can sit here and not have somebody else speak on her behalf, but she can speak about what she's speaking about. Auntie Patricia, who was such, you know, Auntie Patricia didn't miss a beat. There were so many other past staff who were in and out, but hesitantly so. But she was one of the few people who said, I'll be there. And the consequences have been grave for her, you know. I wish there was a space and time where she can also speak openly about what that meant for her, you know, as a staff member who was working within the university, and I think also compromised from her position, right? And what it meant to be there. And so that is the work of narrative justice. The reckoning is that the archive is a lot more dynamic and it's complex and it has a lot of question marks. And the repair could be we're having these conversations and also recognize there's no repair, maybe. We're just going to hold this heaviness and this like very fluid space. But for me, the project, the decolonial one, is a part of this, you know. That's how RMF continues to live on. And like Carbon is saying, I don't know if I can get jiggy with the best, you know. I can get jiggy with the best, but we need to really think about different ways of not just surviving but living through these moments, and we're not having to need another 10 years to kind of reel through the moment, you know. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Guys, you won't believe it, but we're almost out of time.
Excuse me?
You will not believe it, but we are almost out of time. We have about 12 minutes left, and I think...
I'm going through it. Sorry, I just need a sip of wine. I'm going through it.
We have 12 minutes left, and I came here prepared with questions, with...
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? We're going to talk about this, then we're going to talk about this, and I think that the fact that the conversation has turned out to be this one where people have just so much to say, so much to talk about. There's so much that's still happening that needs to still happen. Is a testament to Rhodes Was Full. And part of what you saw in those videos was people sitting in rooms much like this one, having conversations, but those conversations were happening day after day after day for weeks. And then now we're trying to have that conversation now in an hour and a half. And then this is it. And then everyone's gonna go home. And no one's gonna come back tomorrow. And no one's gonna, you know, and sit and have that. So, hey, yeah. I think what I'd like to do is not necessarily try and, you know, change it to be positive per se, but I do, for the sake of healing, I also think, because we've put the audience through a lot as well, and you have been through a lot, for the sake of healing, just to touch on some of the things that happened in the movement that was healing in and of itself. So we're talking about repair, we're talking about reckoning, we're talking about restorative justice, but that movement had that in it as well. And so I just want to hear from you which elements the movement had. It had its many, many, many faults, but which elements did the movement had that, you know, made us feel warm inside?
So I know it's going to sound like I'm picking up from I just have small, and then I'm going to actually answer your question. There's a poem I wrote, a very short poem that I wrote maybe in 2016 that says, we were traumatized together, but we never healed, neither together nor alone. That's Rhodes Was Full. I really struggled with at the time, it was very much the hashtag self-care era, right? Which then got co-opted by capitalism. Just look at the entire business model of Lush, right? You get fucked up by the police, but I promise this bath bomb will solve that. So I always struggled with how we get absolutely fucked up by like police, fucked up by the university, but it's the duty of tackling a system lies as a collective responsibility, but the healing work from that is your personal responsibility. I was like, self-care, but it's not up to myself to destroy the university. That makes no sense. So the one thing that I did find healing, see, now I'm actually answering your question. Yeah, I'm coming back. I was an oddity at the time in the sense that, like, 2015, I was about 19 years old. I came to UCT knowing I was trans. Like, at that time, people's trans awakenings were usually in their 20s, early 20s in general for a South African context. At some point, people used to call me Gogo because I was just like, I had so much skin in this trans game that I felt like a queer elder at 19. Like I had known I was trans and I could articulate that I was trans since like 2010, 2011. So here I'm 2015, like I am being openly trans and freely trans in ways that I wasn't able to do in my high school setting. And one of the joys I have of Rose for Fees Must Fall, like active period, and the years afterwards is the honor of watching people's trans awakenings. Because I think the American trans people call the pre-trans person. So you're trans, but you don't know you're trans. They call them an egg in the American context. And I've watched lots of people's eggs crack. And they birth themselves, you know, and come into this understanding that they're trans. And I won't lie, I can always tell, not always, but a lot of the time I can tell who the eggs are. Because there's a certain intrigue that they had when I'd explained that, oh, I'm trans, oh, what does that mean? I'm non-binary, oh, what does that mean? Not in a way that's like, I want to learn more to be an ally. No. Things were happening. And so there's so many people who, in 2015, when I met them, they were 10 toes down would say they're cisgender. I'm like, yeah, sure. Welcome, my trans siblings. Especially with the work with the Trans Collective. I see it as an offshoot of just for-list politics, and the work we were able to do as the Trans Collective. Like, it was very fun degendering the bathrooms of Kansas, like as an example. Trans capture of the Roses Fall exhibition. Like, there's a lot we've done, especially with the Trans Collective. But if there's one thing that brings me joy, it's just seeing all the trans eggs crack.
Thank you. And yeah, you can try. Patricia.
So for me, it was really the learning and growing to accept inclusivity, to become inclusive was really where I grew at Rose Must Fall. And I think at that time I made the decision that I don't want to be included where I cannot speak my voice and where I have to compromise in what and how I see inclusivity. It reminds me of sitting on transformation committee meetings, and we are brainstorming and we are speaking about transforming the university, and you hear from management that people have to fit in. And I would always respond, fit into what? The culture of the university. So who sets the culture of the university? This is a university where diversity is, it's rife at the university. We are all diverse, we are all different. And I'm getting told I must fit in. So obviously Cecil's culture, he determines the culture at UCT. And I wasn't prepared, and it was very difficult for me. I was, and again, I'll come back to what costed me. I was a single mom. I was a breadwinner. I couldn't afford to, give up my job. But at the end of the day, it was taking that stance of, are you going to fit in with this and allow people to silence your voice, or are you going to accept your fellow comrades and stand and, speak up? And of course, the cost to that is you're going to be victimized. And again, I'll say the strategy is not, that thing about we can't fire, but we can make you go. So we'll burn you out. And if you can't take any more, you'll go. And so, yeah, that's what happened. But when I look back today, I don't regret not 1 minute spent with RMF. I don't regret being part of the movement and what they stood for, what we all stood for. And yes, Mam Nozi will come back and we'll do it again. Yeah.
Ubuhle be-university inomtsalane ibiditsale nabantwana mosibapheshe i-university ngobuhle bayo kaba nami ufika kwami ndandivuya uzosebenza e-university kumandi kona kwakumandi ngoba wawunalo ithuba loba uthethe into ekudlayo lalikhona elo thuba lobana akho umuntu ufanele akuvalele ungayithethi into ekudlayo iminyango yayivuliwe kuthe ungaya njengoba nsitsho ndandisiye eBremna siye memorandum yamkelwe ngu-VC yamkelwe mhlawumbe i-management into ezinhle zazikhona naxa ke into yayiba ingxaki impendulo kodwa ngoku kunzima kuvalwe yonke iminyango uqala uvalelwe ile department usebenza kuyo kuthe khange ulandele funeka uqale kulomuntu uphansi kwakhe unyuke uzawunyuka ke isteps ngesteps baninzi ababantu uba ngaba omnye uthe hayi andikho angabikho iveki yonke angabikho inyanga yonke awukwazi ke ngokujampa kuthi ujampile ndikhumla yenye imini ndiye eBremna ndisisa i-memorandum ye-appeal for i-job description ye-department yam ndihamba nabantu abambalwa sithina siya njengesiqhelo uba ithi university ufree ukuthi uzise into yakho ndafumana umyalezo othi kwi-department yam wena ikhona i-warning yakho ngoba ujampile uye eBremna into enhluphayo ke kwaba bantu batsha aba bantu bangene ngoku kule insource sithi thina sineminyaka apha sisiza apha singenziwa nto ubuhle beuniversity babubuhle ngolo hlobo ngoba ipain yakho awuyisa kungabikho umuntu uzama ngaphambili athi awukwazi uyenza lento kodwa ngoku kukho iminyango evalwayo ivaliwe ilento ke ndithe xa ndithetha ndathi ngoku ingathi kusemangcwabeni euniversity kufiwe ngoba wonke umuntu akafuna uvela kodwa bekuke kakuhle nani ke bantwana andikwazi nje apho ndihamba khona igama lam nalibeke endaweni okokuqala nandibeke endaweni ndaziwa ngoba bendingaziwa pha ngaphakathi bendisaziwa njengaba ndisebenza nabo into yobana hayi uMam Nozi angayithethela into ethile thina xa siyoyikayo ngoba uthi uyayazi lilungelo lakhe into bangayithetha kodwa ke nina nenza into bana ningabantwana besikolo sibonakale nathi nabanye abantu ababengathethi bengafuna uthetha ngento enayenzayo kukho imilomo eyavulekayo kwabanye abantu abanye ke basathetha ke nangoku naxa bethethela ke ngaphansi kwemethi bayoyika kodwa ke mna nandinika into ethi xa uthetha into elungileyo sukoyika ukuyithetha ade abe ukhona ozofika akubeka iplasta emlonyeni akuvale kodwa uba umlomo wakho usavulekile qhubeke ukuthetha so ndiyabulela kubantwana besikolo.
Cut. Ivale, mfale. Ivale.
So yeah, there you have it. Because what else? And I'm hoping that this isn't like the end of this conversation. Obviously, we have to leave for festival. There's someone else coming, but.
Noluthando, can I just make one thing? My contribution is that actually we have a series of dialogues going.
Yes.
So we have a dialogue coming up on the 18th of September, Heading Campus, or Heading Hall, and it's part of a collaborative work that we're doing with the Institute on Creative Arts and the African Gender Institute. And this dialogue will be the second of a dialogue series. The first one was last month, 28th, and it was reflecting on intergenerational feminist organizing. This next one is called Revisiting the University of Azania. And if you want to have a little bit more of these chats with us, please join us on the 18th, Heading Hall at 6 p.m.
Amazing. Thank you. And one last announcement, Mam Nozi has brought printouts of the document that was written for the workers in their aim to get insourced. So if you want a copy of that, you can come and we'll give you that, and then you can get yourself educated on the work that they were doing before and during and after the movement.
And it's a piece of history.
Exactly. Thank you so much for coming, and